Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to Sully's Models. So, this is the final episode of the build. At the very end, there will be the usual slideshow of the finished model. This has been a bit of a challenging build of sorts, because this being a commission build and it's not one for myself, which obviously means there's a little bit of added pressure to get things right and make it look as top notch as possible, which is quite, a nice little change. When you do it for yourself, it's like, yeah, okay, it's cool, I'm happy with that, but once you've got to do it for like a customer, there's a little bit of, nice little bit of pressure there, to do the model. Now, of course, obviously I do commission builds. If you guys, or is anybody is interested, just drop us a message on if you do want anything doing, or just an inquiry. I'll give you a quote on what, if you'd like something doing. So all that's left to do now is show you how I've weathered this aircraft. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll catch you in a minute. Right, so we're going to start with the scratch work. So I'm going to show you on the green, but basically the process was done through out with all the other colours. So using the RF dark green and adding a splodge of white. I think it ended up a little bit more than the splodge than I intended, but anyway, mixing that with a little bit of just tap water, and mixing it so you get just a slightly lighter tone to the original colour. Also maintain a little bit consistent to the paint, because we don't want this too running. Then we apply it to all the areas that are most likely going to get scratched, so that's like edges of panels and walkways. Now also, I have done these slightly larger, because what I tend to do in the end is add a bit of silver to emulate the fact that the scratch has gone deeper than just the paint and gone straight down to the frame metal. So before, most of the concentration is on areas that are going to get scuffed the most, so like the gun bay panels, obviously the edges of those. So then I actually used steel instead of silver by ammo, and again applied that over some of the scratch work, added a few more extra scuffs, again in areas that are going to get the most sort of wear and tear, so again walkways and panels. So for the scratch work on the spinner, I actually used a simple pencil. Again, around some of the edging, particularly on this one, has got a few fastener parts on there. So I did a bit of scratching around there and a little bit around the spinner, again for a bit more wear and tear. I also did the same with a silver pencil along the edges of the blades, and a couple of little scuffs in there, again showing a bit more wear and tear. So on the spinner, to show a bit more usage out of it and a bit of age, because there's a little bit of a ridge around that spinner, I've tacked that off. I've used Tamiya's panel accent liner to sort of accentuate some of those areas. and also using it as a little bit of a filter to show a little bit of grime at that lower part, and quite simply just using white spirits to work that in, and also remove any excess panel liner that I don't want in there. Now, if you remember originally in the last video, I'd actually shadowed sort of like the oil stains. Hopefully that won't be too covered by the paint. Unfortunately, I went a little bit heavy-handed. So I've gone over that again. I've used a mix of Tamiya Buff and Desert Sand. And what this is going to do is just sort of show, you know, old grease, and obviously the dirt build up, and you know, makes it all gunky, and you know, gives you that sort of staining. So before I go any further, I'll give the entire of the model a wash. I used a mix of black and brown accent panel liner, and just working it mainly over rivets and panel lines. And again, same before, using a little bit of white spirits, not too much, just a little bit of a dab on the brush, and then using either something like a paper towel or even a cloth, and just gently rub it away. Preferably you want to be doing it in this sort of what would be the airflow of the aircraft, and pulling it down, and it will still sit in all those panels. So back to the oil stains. I'm using AK's oil stains basically for this part, and basically I'll put quite a fairly heavy layer of streaking. What I will eventually do is I'll put a matte varnish down, and what this does again gives it a bit of an aged effect to the oil stain, and then afterwards I'll go over it again with the same fuel stain, not so heavy as I have done before, just to give you the impression of, you know, continuing and sort of fresher oil leaks. I also did exactly the same thing for and around the fuel cap. Again, given that, you know, idea that, you know, it's been refueled a few times, you know, and it dries up and gets old. Also did a bit of speckling as well, as sort of give the impression that, you know, when the pump's been taken out, you know, there's been a few drips and jabs of excess fuel in the pump. So here you can see it's had the matte coat, and you can see it looks you know, a little bit you know, a little bit older looking, and I'm just going over with some fresher stains. Now for the exhaust stains, I just basically put down a light spraying of black, nothing too heavy, because what I will do is put some black pigment over the top of that, and that will give you a little bit more texture, and the idea is hopefully giving a little bit more depth to those exhaust stains. Now with the exhaust stacks, apart from the black base layer, everything was done with powdered pigments. I started off with a mix of dark rust and soot, sort of darken it a little bit so it's not too bright. Then after that I went a little bit lighter with some, again, rust again. And then after that, using ochre yellow, to give you the you know, the extra rusting and speckling on the exhaust stubs, and then just finishing off around the exhaust themselves, just a little bit of black soot, and then apart from the very first one, run it down all the others, again giving the hopeful impression of, you know, quite a bit of usage. And then that's all that's left to do with the exhaust. He's just fitting into the airframe. So now we're down to the last few bits and pieces. All that's left to really be stuck on is the undercarriage. But first, removing the masking tape, obviously over the canopy. And hopefully not revealing too many issues there, but fortunately for the main part of the canopy there was all nice and clean, no issues whatsoever. Unfortunately for the main canopy part, there was a little bit of a run and slight overspray, but fortunately with the cotton bud and a little bit of water, all that come out nice and easy. So the last detail to really go on is the radio wire. I've used MIG rigging wire, which is it's a 0.2mm wire. It's used for rigging on ships mainly. It's the main tension purpose for it, but it's great for your radio antenna. It's a little bit elasticated, so you don't have to worry too much about knocking it. All you need to do is give it, make sure it's got enough tension on there so it's nice and tight, which obviously, as you can see here, does cause a few problems, and using a bit of super glue to fix it in place. But as you can see with my shaky hands, it took quite a while for it to get it in the right place and let the glue set. But I'll get there in the end. I think this took me about 5 or 10 minutes to get into place. But with the radio antenna, it's one of those nice little adds to finishing off of the model. So there you go, guys. That's the weathering done so far. All that's left for me to do now is a couple of things. Is say thank you very much for watching. Do appreciate it. Also, like and subscribe to the channel. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And finally, see the finished product.